good to practice. We kind of turn the page now, as you always do. Dallas coming in. I've played them. I played Dallas in 20, 21, and 22, and hadn't beat them. So I beat them in 19, but not 20, 21, 22. So understand the challenge that it is to play them, and back home we want to play well in front of our fans. So good challenge for us, and got to have a good week of prep to be ready to go.
One easy one first. Coach Zach wasn't familiar with the work of Mr. Bankroll Fresh.
Bankroll Fresh? Oh, he wasn't?
Yeah, he was not familiar.
I can educate him. I can educate him. He can listen to it on the way home after he listens to a voice memo.
Kind of one of the subplots here is Coach Mike was here in 07 as the coordinator in the
Yes, right.
Season.
Yep.
Kind of went sideways that year, but then you all were together for 4 years up there, and he said on Monday, he told him like, well, hey, Kurt knows me too,
Yeah.
So that's going to be, that was 4 years together. Is there some information there that may be helpful for you or him?
I think that'd be kind of overrated, if you will. I think his scheme is so sound, and I don't think there's much you can extract there. He's been around the leagues for so long and is so respected, and has had a scheme that gives people problems for so long that I don't think there's too much that by having worked together would make much difference.
So the Bankroll Fresh here.
Yeah.
Where you first, the origin story of this, where you first learn it, and
yeah.
It's become kind of like one of the calling cards of this team.
Well, I didn't know it is that. I didn't know it's a calling card of the team. I kind of am insulated, so I don't know quite what our calling card is on the outside. But when I was in Minnesota, people would say it, like I was saying a few weeks ago, and then I think it came up standing right here maybe a couple weeks ago. I'm not even sure why it came to mind. And then our next away game was Tampa, and that was kind of the feeling, and so one thing leads to the next. Sometimes you just black out, and if it's a calling card, then so be it.
We fight, we scrap, we fight, no cap.
Something like that. Yeah, it was something like that. I don't know, but we'll see if we bring it back out.
Where does that come from? Is that in the moment? Is that something that
probably from 5th grade English, just trying to find words that rhyme, and having enough self-awareness to know what wouldn't go over well and what might, but it's a work in progress.
Maybe it resonates the trap line because he was an Atlanta rapper.
Yeah, I'm actually not well versed enough to kind of know let's stick to our Atlanta lyrics only. Yeah. But that is certainly serendipitous.
It was a happy accident.
It is certainly a happy accident, very serendipitous to have it work out that way. The key is that you win. It's not a great lyric if you're saying it and then you lay an egg on the road. So it always goes back to playing football well and winning.
It's part of that, Kirk. Like we saw the video of you saying that, in the tunnel about to run out, and we just see it on NFL films. It's a lot of let's go out there and kick some butt and stuff like that. Was part of it getting guys loose? Doing that.
Yeah, I think it's all the above. I think it's trying to find that extra edge. I think it's trying to feel like we're in this together. We're doing something together, and we're not out there alone. I think it's understanding and putting a smile on people's faces. I think it's all the above, and you're trying to tap into all of it.
Kurt, can I ask you what your teammates' reaction was when you took off running on that play?
When I took off running, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. They were probably going, uh-oh. But when I got up, I was very well received. I think the guys in the huddle, they always appreciate feeling like you're not just a quarterback, but you're a football player. And I think the Moonies of the world, sometimes they'll say, hey, make sure you get down, So, but the reality is, I didn't know this when I was talking to you all post-game, is Ray was wide open. So there's a little bit of it's great that I ran, but again, if I'm just going through my progressions, if I hit Ray, we get a much better play out of Ray running than me running. So that's where you say that's why you're a progression passer, is because as much as running is nice and all and may get attention, kicking it down to Ray there is a better play, bigger gain, and And so it just reminded me again why being a progression passer works.
Zach has talked so much about how good you are as a progression passer. How much do you feel like that's kind of evolved even since being here in Atlanta?
Yeah, I think some of it's just the position I'm put in as far as the scheme and what we're kind of hanging our hat on. I think some of it is the fact that our protection is good enough to allow me to progress. Sometimes you would progress, but you don't have the time, and so when you're protected as well as I was on Sunday, it enables you to get through progressions. And then it's kind of the way I've always played, is just trying to have field vision and tick through as quickly as I can. And it's never perfect. Sometimes you pass up an open guy. Sometimes you're too decisive, but keep trying to be as sharp as I can in that aspect.
Kirk, I believe yesterday, I don't know if anniversary is the right word, but you're tearing your Achilles.
Was it yesterday? Yeah.
So,
Interesting, yeah.
I mean, when you look back to where you are, or you look at where you are now, are you kind of surprised that it's been a year and where you are, and are you kind of proud of it, or I guess how's it make you feel when you think about it?
Just grateful for being back out on a football field and playing. Very grateful. And Grady came up to me before practice today, and he said, "Hey, week 9, we both made it longer than we did last year," and gave me knuckles. And I said, "You're right." I said, "I hadn't even thought about that now it's week 9. We've kind of turned the page beyond where you and I were last year at this time. I was probably getting operated on a couple of days, probably had just my foot in a cast, for now at this time last year." So grateful for all the people, both with the Vikings and with the Falcons, who have helped, get me back. And certainly was, they told me when I did it that it's like the stock market. There's going to be days where you feel like, oh, this is going to be great. This is easy. We're going to be great. And then you may go a week or two where you feel like you're getting worse or not getting any better. But the general trend is up and to the right. And so that's kind of what it's been. But it has been somewhat of a bumpy up and to the right. And you had to kind of navigate those bumps as we went.
What do you like about having John Robinson and Tyler Algier as kind of like the two-headed monster?
Yeah.
Running back duo.
So my thing with running back, like selfishly from my perspective, is I want a running back who, when he's in there, I know he can do it all. And that's a little unrealistic, because usually the guy who's going to pass protect well may not run great routes, or the guy who runs great routes may not be the great between the tackles runner. And what's exciting about the two running backs we have is, and even behind them, I feel like when they're in, I can ask them to pass protect, to block, to run a short route, to run a deeper route. I think there's a lot of acumen mentally for them, where I can say hey, I need you quick here, or hey, stay in longer, and I don't feel like they're looking at me like, what do you mean? It's very gotcha. And so the ability for them to keep up mentally too, they're really sharp, and it's just it's fun to play with people like that, period. But when they're the one standing right next to you, it's even more fun. And I think it also goes back to Coach Petrie. I've been really impressed with him going back to March. I went to Zach early on. I thought, man, our running back coach is pretty sharp. He's handling the protection meetings, and he's got these guys dialed. I can just tell standing next to him, when I'm making the protection call and they're a step ahead of me, that you're well coached, if that's happening. So got to give Coach Petrie a lot of credit. But, yeah, they're a joy to play with.
Did you know much about Tyler Algier when you were coming in?
I didn't. And I there's a part of me, I've always said you got to know the league. You got to know, the coordinators you're facing, the opponents. You got to know who your divisional opponents have drafted. Really study the league. And I was a little mad at myself getting here that there were parts of this roster that I should have known more about that I just didn't. I was out last year with the injury when we played them, and I was just, Tyler Algier was probably the biggest example of a guy where I'm I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't know as much about a back who's this good. And, and I think even some of that's shame on, the coverage nationally of players like that. When you have a player this good and nobody talks about him, it's really a shame, because those guys are out there who are underrated. But he certainly would be the halfback on the all underrated team.
What makes Tyler so good in your opinion?
Well, he's a really good fit for the wide zone scheme. And I've always, going back to college, I remember somebody told me as an evaluator, the way to evaluate a back is, do they make the first guy miss, or can they take a 1-yard run and make it a 4-yard run? And too many times it's the 64-yard run that everyone wants to talk about, but it's, can you make a 1-yard run become a 4-yard run? And Tyler just does that over and over and over again. Or a 4-yard run becomes a 7-yard run. And the difference that makes for me or for the play caller on the next down is so helpful.
Kirk, we heard that on Friday you were asking granted permission to speak to the team in the team meeting. What were you trying to express there, and why do you feel like it was important at that time?
Yeah, I just was just trying to, I'll keep the message kind of between us as a team, but I just was trying to make sure that, as I said on Sunday night, after a tough loss in Seattle or against Seattle, emotionally, I was kind of feeling down, and then I was trying to encourage myself, and it hit me that maybe there's somebody else in our building who could use the same encouragement, and just wanted to be able to convey that. And so I voice memoed Raheem and said, hey, would you be okay with me giving this message? Here's the message I would give. I would take 4 minutes. Is that okay? Can we allot 4 minutes? And he texted back, sure, I'll give you the floor on Friday. So that's how it worked out.
Was that connected at all to the pregame tunnel kind of hyping up of the players to try to get them emotionally, or not emotionally,
Yeah.
but kind of like, mentally engaged?
Maybe, I don't know. I think some of it's just trying probably to get myself going, So I think it's just trying to get everybody going, but get myself going. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Talk to a lot of athletes, and they'll talk about how they kind of almost become a different person when they're out in the field, and usually there's something that goes into that, whether it's like listening to a playlist or something. Do you, as a quarterback, it's such a cerebral position, I'm just curious how you kind of handle kind of getting yourself ready for the physical aspect of the game while also kind of maintaining your head and your composure.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance. I took a pre-workout once before a game in 2015, and the whole game I was like jittery, and I realized, I'm the opposite. I have to like the pass rusher who's foaming at the mouth, that may be good for him, but as a quarterback, this isn't good. I have to kind of do the opposite of a pre-workout. So in some ways I would try to calm myself down, but there's like this quiet intensity or like a laser focus that you also have to have that sometimes doing a chant or yelling at somebody or getting upset is what kind of gets you to that place of like a laser focus, even though you still stay calm and present. And I wish there was like a quick pill you could take to kind of get you there every time, but we tried it. As players, we all try to find that every week.
What was the offensive player of the week? October, you were at the beginning and now at the end. Just, I know it's all about the team, but I mean, just how's that feeling about you progressing and where you guys are heading?
Yeah, I think it's just another step in the right direction. Coach Rob will always say, was that a game or is that your game? And so that's kind of the challenge is, and Sean McVay used to say the best measure of performance, or one of the best measures of performance, is consistency. Can you do it again and again and again? That was always my message to Justin Jefferson, is I would say, hey, Justin, we're Offensive Player of the Year in the league. That's great. Can you do it again? And I thought, Justin, the only thing between you and a gold jacket is, did you do it 11 years or did you do it for 5? And so he knew that, and I think he's going to do it for 11 plus. But the challenge I've always had for myself and for my teammates is, was that a game or is that your game, as Raheem says? And so it's important we keep stacking it, and that's where you feel in week 9 there's just so much more out to go get, before you can start to take stock of things.
Braves outrun the South. I guess Raheem said it.
Yeah.
In one of the first meetings of the year back in April. It seems like it's kind of been like a rallying cry for the team. What do you like about that?
Yeah, we got rallying cries, we got calling cards, we got it all. So I remember my rookie year. Again, I didn't know the league yet, which I'm ashamed to say, but I get in and Mike Shanahan walks in a team meeting, and first thing, we got to win the NFC East. I mean, and why do you have to win the NFC East? Because you get a home playoff game. You get a home playoff game that's a game changer. So that's kind of always where it starts if you want to laser in your focus on what are we trying to do objectively this year. And so I think he did make that point early, outrun the South, and it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to be about it. But we always feel that you kind of get what you emphasize. So let's emphasize it. And so I do think it's a rallying cry. I think so.
Jesse talked about how you really embraced the culture of Atlanta, and while that was serendipitous that rapper is from Atlanta, just like, do you feel like that's been just something that's come natural, or is that something intentional where you've like tried to ingrain yourself in it?
I think if I was trying, I'd be trying too hard. I think it's more just you got to be yourself and sometimes poke fun at yourself. And I saw the meme from Napoleon Dynamite, with Kip, I think is his brother. Is that right? I mean, that's great. I just love that. And the best part of that meme is in that scenario, my wife is LaFonda from the movie, so that's even better. But that, you know, I just try to be yourself and love having fun with it. And it all goes back to winning. You got to play well and win, and then you're it's great. I think you can do all you want to, you know, build a rapport with your fan base, your city. If you're not winning, nobody really wants to get to know you. So you want to win. That's what it all goes back to, and play well.
Circling back to what you said about Tyler, anybody else that jumps out off your head that surprised you when you got here?
Well, I think Jesse Bates is I would think people now know he's the best safety in the league, but it didn't seem like that was the narrative 2 or 3 years ago, and I think that was a miss. Troy Anderson, I think, is a special player. I think A.J. Terrell is the real deal as a corner. Jake Matthews continues. I mean, I think Jake Matthews has been to one Pro Bowl. Like, I've played with Trent Williams. I've played with some really good tackles. Like, he plays good football, and he's smart, and you just count on him. And going back to consistency, like being such a great measure of performance, like, you guys just consistent. So there's a little bit of a with this team, like, hopefully I don't create a calling card here, a rallying cry. But there's a little bit of like a substance that lacks flash almost. Like the substance is there, but it doesn't have like the flash. And that's who I've been my whole life, is like I'll bring substance, but I may not, you know, have the flash. And so, you know, all I want is substance. Flash, great if you have it or not, but I want substance. And I do think this team has a lot of guys with substance.
Halloween, family.
Yeah.
The theme.
Yeah. So Halloween for me growing up was not like not growing up, but like, you know, my early years in the pros, it wasn't like this thing. And then when I started seeing my kids go trick-or-treating, I was like, this is one of the greatest days of the year. I just love it. I love it. Like, I'm going to try to get my work done tomorrow as fast as I can so I can get home and be a part of it. I think we're going to get in a golf cart and go around the neighborhood with like a whole train of people. And Richard Seymour's a couple houses down here. He has this whole like chili set up and a tent. And so I'm pumped. So what I think I'm going to do is my one son is Darth Vader. And he's super excited. Turner. Like he's Turner, and he's put the costume on like 5 separate times. And, you know, he had never seen the movie, so we watched Star Wars Episode 4, which is really Star Wars 1, last night to kind of get him into it. I think I'm going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi and be like his mentor, you know, his failed mentor, but his mentor. And we'll kind of go around the neighborhood like that, but sort of, that's right. It all comes back. I see what you did there. You're a journalist. That's what you got to do. And then Iron Man, my older son's Iron Man, and it's just awesome. It's like Christmas morning, honestly, when you're a parent of young kids, watching them go door to door and be in their costume and, you know, walk with their shoulders back, and they just love it, and it's so fun to see. And again, the weather, you know, should be great here, so that might be fun. And you know, there's some years growing up north when you go trick-or-treating. I mean, it is miserably cold, so it's nice here, and looking forward to it.
Did the kids suggest costumes for Dad, or you're just like, hey?
Nah, yeah, I don't think they did. I don't think they did. Someone said to me, you should be Obi-Wan, and I was like, you're right. Let's do that. So, but they picked their costumes, Iron Man. You know, my wife, what do you want? They pick, she orders it, and they're good to go. But yeah, my son, he just the other day, they were playing in the neighborhood, and he sprints in. I'm like, where are you going? I got to put my costume on, because he had to go back out and play kickball in a full Darth Vader outfit instead of just in his street clothes. So he had the cape on and everything. So.
Those Kirko chains.
You know what? In Minnesota, that was a thing. Yeah, people. I remember we played on Halloween once, and people showed up in. I thought, I'm a costume. I've made it a long ways. That's pretty good. You know you've made it. You know you've made it when. So.
Not even yourself. It's like your alter ego.
That's right. That's right. Love it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.